We're going to do that one more time in case you guys didn't catch it. That's a brand new spiffy intro that my guy Blake made for me. Hello and welcome to the PMQ live update for December 1st. I'm your host, Brian Hernandez. I'm very excited to see everybody today. It is the first month of December. We're getting into Christmas. It is the 17th month of preparing for Christmas of 2020. So I'm pretty sure that all your Christmas trees have been up for months. I have a couple great guests here today. Their names are Ricky Webster and Lars Smith, and they are the winners of the Real California Pizza Contest that was just pretty much just happened. When was that? October? The end of November, correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So
it went on a lot longer than that, though. It was a long process, which was fun. It was very spread out this year.
All right, so the first gentleman, the guy in the middle, I like that, Ricky. You got right in the center. That was perfect. He was the first guy to speak. This is Ricky Webster. He is of Rind and Wheat Bakery in Spokane. I always say Spokane because I always pronounce things phonetically, but it's Spokane, right? Spokane, Washington.
Spokane. Yep, Spokane, Washington.
Okay. So how long you guys been around?
We just opened October 21st this year. So it was a lifelong dream, goal, passion. And we moved up to Spokane from downtown Los Angeles about 4 years ago. And we got here and there was no cheese shop. And that kind of sounds weird, I think, a little bit to say, but I opened a bakery. But no, we kind of all encompassed and did it all. And it's a cheese shop and bakery. But, through moving here, we located from downtown Los Angeles to be corporate executive chef for Red Lion Hotel Corporation. Quickly learned that I was a final piece in the puzzle for them to market food and beverage and make the entire thing sellable. And they sold off all the properties, and I quickly found myself without a job. So I went to go work for Cisco Foods as a consultant chef with them, and have been with them for the last 3 years. And then the pandemic hit, and I found myself furloughed. And I wasn't going to leave my livelihood in the hands of corporations. So I kind of started putting things down on paper, and Rind and Wheat came to be. And we opened in the middle of a pandemic, which I know is similar to Lars's story a little bit too. So, but it seemed like the right time. This has almost happened a few times from us being here, and never felt right. And this time felt right. It's scary as it is, but.
Well, and I was going to say, yeah, and that's another question I have for Lars, because I know he has another venture opening as well in the pandemic, but it's just one of those things where it's not something you hear that often. But we'll get to that. I want to talk to both of you about that, and maybe let some other people know if they've if they have just opened, what they can do. But also we want to talk with our next guest, Mr. Lars Smith. I see the beard's coming back, sir. Thank you so very much for that. I know that was a personal request there. But Lars Smith, you are another winner, U.S. Pizza Team member, but you have won numerous competitions. You just won the virtual U.S. Pizza Cup for 2020. But why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about State of Mind up there, or over there in Los Altos?
Well, State of Mind Public House and Pizzeria. We're here in Los Altos, California, kind of smack dab in between San Francisco and San Jose. And we've been around for almost 3 years now. It looks like we're going to celebrate our third anniversary under almost a full lockdown. But things have been really good to us, and it's been a challenge. But we are persevering, and we are working on a second location that should open within a matter of weeks. So it's really scary to say that in the middle of a pandemic, because it's like, yeah, one truck doesn't make it. You don't have your electrical stuff, so it's kind of the stuff that we're all dealing with, and that's what we're doing.
Well, it's admirable. It's kind of insane. I mean, both of you guys are just kind of out there in the atmosphere and trying to do this at this time. Now, I assume most of these plans were kind of started and set in motion before everything kind of happened. But again, we'll talk about what made you guys pull the trigger in a little bit. But I wanted to say that now, Ricky, going over your bio here, you won quite a few prestigious awards. I mean, like televised competitions. I mean, the Food Network, the Hallmark Channel, and things like this. And just because of copyright issues, it's very hard to get a lot of that footage. But I mean, how many times have you competed yourself, Ricky? And I assume from everything I've seen, it kind of came up from the bakery side, and then kind of what led you to say, yeah, I'll do pizza.
So I've definitely competed quite a bit, but I'm glad and really grateful for this latest win with for the real California pizza that I did, and because finally it knocks me out of just being able to do Christmas cookies, which is what I've been pigeonholed in for a few years here. I competed way back on one of the earlier seasons of Cupcake Wars on Food Network and was like runner-up on that. Had some fun the last few years doing Christmas cookie competitions, as well as a gingerbread competition on Food Network. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's one of my favorite times of year, especially I think coming up, like you said, through bakeries and pastries. It's that very whimsical, exciting time of year. But like I said, I got pigeonholed, and so I had been competing the last couple years in the pizza competition. And last year, with where Lars and I met, and both competing in it, and it just made me go, I want to do this again, and I can't wait for next year. And so this year entered, and here we are, both here sitting talking to you, Brian.
Well, and that's another question I had, is that you have competed, you faced off again, or not again, but before. So was the first time so this is not your first pizza competition. You were in last year, the inaugural California pizza contest, right?
Yep.
Lars, what did you think about him? Were you worried about him coming in?
Yeah, I was. There was so it was really cool that there was three of us that repeated in the finals. It was Buffy, Ricky, and I. And I don't think I'm double. I don't want to miss anybody, but I'm pretty sure it was just the three of us. And last year was such a incredible experience because the California Milk Advisory Board brought us all out to Napa. I drove there. Everybody else flew in. But we kind of had these 2 or 3 days of like really wonderful food and meals and opportunities to hang out. And I remember Ricky and his partner being there. And Ricky, correct me if I'm wrong, but your family came out too. Is that right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Fremont, California. So, close to Napa within that hour or so. And my mom, and I mean, she's like a big cheerleader. And so when I had asked like, hey, is there any possible way? Because they're really itching to see this. And they were like, absolutely. So my mom and brother and aunt came out and they watched it. I mean, as embarrassing as that is sometimes here and there, but but they were great support and cheerleaders for sure. But yeah, they came out.
And I remember them coming out and like, it was this really fun kind of like, there was like a stew room outside of cooking and we had to do some speeches and all that too. But I remember Ricky and his partner and his family being like incredibly warm, and his mom was like talking to me, oh, we're from the Bay Area too. And really, it's hard to connect when you're sitting there focused on all your stuff. But I remember Ricky's family being so warm and Ricky being so warm that we've actually kept in touch on and off on social media over the last year. So getting to compete again this year together and knowing that he had just opened or was opening his bakery and cheese shop was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good trait to have, getting to know the competitors and becoming friendly on that level? I know, Lars, as a U.S. Pizza Team member, that's kind of what we're about. But I mean, Ricky, what do you think? Is that something that's beneficial? Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is, and I can't speak for Lars or any other competitors, but for me, like, interviewing with Food Network and all these shows and stuff, sometimes they're like, their biggest question is, how competitive are you? Or are you competitive? And they want you to say like, oh yeah, I'm cutthroat, and I'm gonna cut someone if they're gonna win over me. Like, but early on, Food Network and their competition shows, they used to like keep you completely separated, and they didn't want you to talk to one another and encourage each other. And it's like, I'm doing these competitions to push myself further. And that's my main goal. Can I be competitive and have fun with someone else? Sure. But I'm also looking to learn from the expertise that Lars has. Like, I'm not the pizza chef, but at the end of the day, it boils down to us being good cooks. And whether you're in pastry, whether you're in fine dining and fast casual, whether you're making
pizza or handmade pasta, at the end of the day, we're all good cooks. And so to be able to learn from one another and set yourself in this category with these other people who are just as passionate, just as motivated, go-getters who are pushing themselves, I think it just helps to push you continue in growth and experience and knowledge and all this stuff, which I'm hungry for. And so each one of these competitions is a way for me to kind of push myself further, hold myself accountable, see what I'm up to, see where I can push the limits and the boundaries and ultimately have fun. So Food Network is transitioning a little bit, and they're letting you be able to converse and communicate with one another and encourage one another. And they put you in the same holding room instead of like segregating it and making you feel like you're in a battle with these people, which no, at the end of the day, there's no good experience there.
What are your thoughts on that same topic, Lars?
So Ricky and I have never talked about this before, but he basically said exactly what I would say, which I think is, one of the reasons that I felt like, especially last year, like I connected with Ricky and I'm interested in what he's doing and his career path is like, we're both professional chefs. He does what he does really well, and I do what I do really well, and there's definitely some intersection there. But competing for me, and I think I've told this or talked about this on the podcast with you or the live shows with you, Brian, before, is that I'm very competitive with myself. I'm not so good at being competitive with other people. That's kind of why I washed out of competitive sports at like 7 years old. I'm not that interested in competing with other people. I want to see how far I can push myself and seeing how I could make the best pizza, or do the best of whatever I'm doing. How do I do better than I did yesterday, or create or put forth my vision the best I can? So for me, I like to, these competitions, I want to see what other people are doing, their techniques, their flavor profiles, learn something from them, push my knowledge from seeing and competing with these other people. So I've never really looked at it as like I'm competing against them, and I want them to do bad and myself to do good. I want to be the best myself, best version of myself I can today. And hopefully they do the same. And whatever the judges like at the end of the day is what wins.
Yep. Well, and I like to hear that, because that's always kind of been the mantle of the U.S. Pizza team. It's that, yes, we want to beat you. We will trash talk you to the end of the earth, even if you're on the team, but we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that you compete at your best level, because we want to beat you at your best. We don't want an asterisk next to our win. You know what I mean? It's like, we want to make sure that you go out there and you do your best. And in the end, it's all just pizza. So why do we got to get angry? So I like that they've kind of loosened up on that. It's nice to get to know the competition. It makes it a little more friendly, obviously friendly competitiveness versus angry rivalry, which nobody needs right now, especially right now. So,
and one thing last year that the California Milk Advisory Board, like Lars said, was tremendously supportive and encouraging. Like they took us to these meals where we were sitting at a big long table together, breaking bread with one another, and sitting next to someone different every single night, and just learning what everyone was about. And last year, the same thing with the Hallmark win, which, as cheesy and wonderful as it sounds, it was. They had us supporting one another. Someone's piece was falling, and a bunch of us ran over there to help, because at the end of the day, we're human beings and we're interacting with each other. And I care about a person. And if I win something cool, it's the finishing touch. But I've already learned everything I needed to learn or grow how I did, before that win or loss.
And I was gonna say, I think that Ricky has a long culinary career, and he's worked in many aspects, and I've done a few things as well. And I think that's kind of been an evolution of the food and hospitality industry in general. And one of the good things that has come out of the idea of a celebrity chef or cookbooks, or like the whole world being foodies and understanding food better, is that the secrecy and the competitiveness and the cutthroatness has really started to get out of the industry, and get out of even in kitchens. You certainly don't treat people the way that they used to be treated in kitchens and in your restaurants. It's much less cutthroat and much more inclusive in the industry, and we're seeing it in the competitions as well. It's kind of trickling down that if we all know more, we're all doing our best, we're all progressing our crafts, that it's better for everyone, which is a cool thing.
Yeah. Well, and I like to hear that the Food Network's grabbing onto something that we've tried to do at the U.S. Pizza team for quite a while. I'm gonna promote, but we always have that meet and greet dinner the night before, where everybody's coming to compete. We break bread together, we get to know each other. Then the next day we get serious and make sure that we kick each other's asses. I get 3 curse words on this show. That's 1. Now we're down to 2. I'll give Lars 1, Ricky, you get 1 too. That's why we keep it PG-13. But no, I love that. That's a great mentality. That's what we need. I mean, it's a friendly competitiveness, because we're all, in the end, we're all trying to learn from each other when we go to these things and uplift each other to help everybody else as well. So now this was a very much a different competition. It was virtual in the fact that we couldn't travel, so you guys could not be there like last year, the first year, to actually come there and create your masterpieces. They had somebody else, another chef, actually make them for you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So they made them for the so you were judged by your submissions, you were picked, and then to actually make the submissions, they had other chefs who were in California, so it wasn't dragging a bunch of people from all over the place. How did you feel about having somebody else make your competition? Because we almost thought about doing this for our virtual competition and virtual U.S. Pizza Team or U.S. Pizza Cup competition. But I was not. I was wary of. They said you should make all the entries, and I'm like, I don't want that kind of mantle on my shoulders. I don't want their chance of winning a lot of money on my shoulders. How did you feel about somebody else making your entry, and what did they do to make it easier and kind of assuage your worries? Ricky, why don't you go first?
Yeah, it was, to hear that at first was interesting. It was like, I know I've worked on this year and honed my craft a little bit, and I feel really good with the dough this year, because I think that's where I kind of lost some bandwidth the year prior. But then they said, hey, we're going to pivot, and we have the CIA chefs that they're going to be here, and we're going to assign them to you, and they're going to make these pizzas. And it's like, okay. And then I immediately thought, I was like, you know what? It's no different than me running a staff in a kitchen and having 50 employees or whatever it was that I've, in my experience that I've had, and I can't do every single thing, and I can't be at every single prep table or on every single station of the line, and I got to work with this person and communicate with them, and now it's also this like testament to how is your communication style, what does your leadership style look like, and how do you connect with somebody. So it was another added little challenge there. And it's like, okay, well, I need to hold myself accountable to see how good I am in communication and how good my recipe is written and can it be followed. And so it gave me that extra little sense of excitement and challenge as well, which I'm always up for. And it turned out okay. It was not a lot to fret over, but they paired us up with some really talented individuals. So we were lucky in that sense too, for sure.
Okay, and this was all done through the CIA, not the crazy, scary one that makes great movies, but the Culinary Institute of America. They had chefs from them, correct?
Yeah.
So, Lars, what were your thoughts on that? Because I love what Ricky says about that. It adds an extra level of communication skills too, and obviously, I don't know that you guys were graded on that in the competition, but I mean that again says how well can I communicate my vision to somebody else to make them be able to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, Ricky and I are kindred spirits here, because I'm going to echo everything that he said. What I think was really cool is that the guys at the Food Connector who run this program for the California Milk Advisory Board, the call I got from Dave Chapman was, here's the deal, here's how it's going to look this year, are you in? So it wasn't like they shoved it down any of our throats. It was, this is going to look quite a bit different this year. People aren't going to travel. Other people are going to have to make your food. Do you want to be in? If you bow out, that's totally fine if it's not what you want to do. So, I'm sitting on the phone with him and I'm like, yeah. I want to do it. Whatever. We'll figure it out. Got off the phone. I said, hey, babe, I'm in 2 categories again for the finals. This is pretty wild. And my wife was like, not being a naysayer, but like, well, are you sure you want somebody else to represent our brand that you're never going to meet in person?
Yeah.
And that was, that was a real concern for me. Because it was represented as State of Mind, and we have a reasonably well-known pizza brand locally, and people do know us nationally and internationally, and I had to think about that. But this is just another challenge, and like Ricky said, I mean, can I really call myself a restaurateur, an executive? I oversaw, was it almost 450 employees when I was working with Leah at Pizza My Heart? I mean, if I can't do this adequately, then just walk away from it. Didn't really seem like an option on a personal level. So I stood up to the challenge and realized that we're going to have to do some Zoom calls here. I'm going to have to dial in my recipe and try to teach this person that I'm never going to meet or not going to meet in person before they make my pizza, try to explain to them what my culinary vision is and who I am as a chef and how I make things, and then give them the recipe and hope they can do it. And it wasn't like they gave us random people. I mean, like the lady Angela Salvatore, who made Ricky and I one of my pizzas and Ricky's pizza. She worked at the Model Bakery, which was like on Oprah's best things list for their English muffins. It's not like she didn't know. Kara's Cupcakes is one of the biggest cupcake companies out here. She was their like culinary director in the height of cupcake frenzy, when each town had like 45 cupcake stores. She was running it at the height of it. Like, so clearly she can cook and bake probably much better than I can. So that was kind of something that. Okay, we'll be fine. We're gonna have to figure this out.
Yeah. Well, I know they like paired us up kind of at random. They said, and it was awesome when her and I hopped on a Zoom call, and Ed's like, yeah, I don't know how this happened, but you guys ended up getting paired, and you're both, like pastry or bakery driven people. And I was like, good, like that's great for me. I'm excited to have someone who's of like mind and spirit. But when you really break it down, and it's like these, it's two people, and pastry and baking and all that is much more, as you guys know, a little bit more scientific than that general, savory. And I think when you're dealing with pizza, that crust and that dough is scientific, and it's you have your method and your recipe down, and it doesn't really change from bakery to pizzeria in that aspect. And so when they did that, I was like, great, this is somebody who's looked at a recipe, who could follow that recipe, and who knows, like, or who can hopefully trust that I have my methods and measurements down how I want them.
Now, were you guys, did you take notes from the bakers, or were you supposed to just say this is how it has to be, and they weren't supposed to ask you any questions?
Oh no, they asked questions like to make sure that they were clear on whether.
But suggestions, I guess. They didn't give you suggestions. We're not taking suggestions. You're not allowed to.
No, not allowed to. But I don't. So they were there to make our pizzas. We clearly had provocative enough pizzas and recipes for the judges to choose our pizzas to be in the finals. And I think as professional chefs and culinary instructors, should they have a question or maybe a suggestion, but the recipes were the recipes for the most part. We were allowed to modify because there was changes in the ovens they have there, that kind of stuff. But I think, at least with me, as a professional speaking to a professional in this, I'm sure it goes the same with Ricky, is that I don't think that they would have even thought to make a suggestion in terms of how to make our pizzas is the same as if I was an assistant chef or working for somebody at a festival or a demo. I would never say, hey, let's do it this way. If we're consulting or we're doing something else, I'd absolutely, or, I'm sure in Ricky's life at Cisco or some of the consulting I've done, of course, that's fair game. But if we're trying to execute somebody's culinary vision, is that I think that would be crossing a line. I don't think any of the chefs even thought about it.
No, I was personally, just selfishly asking just to make sure. I mean, like, no, obviously this is how it's going to be done. You don't suggest, well, maybe if you use this spice instead of that one. Okay, well, so basically, they're following your kitchen commands.
I was in the finals in two categories, and the second category that I was in, the Cal Mex, I got an email like super early the morning of the bake from the one of my or from the chef for that category, and said, hey, this one oven that you want to use just really isn't hot enough today. Can I cook in the other one? If I don't hear from you, I'll do what you say, but I'm really telling you we need to get in this other oven. So I emailed the guy back immediately because I'm a psychopath and check my email a million times a day. Got it, and I texted him back or emailed him back, and I was like, dude, in terms of that kind of stuff, put it in the best oven. Make the pizza, and which Ricky and I trust our staff to do too. That if something's not quite right that day, don't serve it. Don't do it this exact way that we do it every day. Like, food is alive, pastry's alive, baked. We were using yeast, we're using fire, we're using all these kinds of things that was a suggestion, but I don't think that there was really a position. There's position for them to ask questions, but there wasn't really a place for them to say, hey, your recipe is really cool, but here's how I do it with my culinary voice. That just wasn't really the vibe of the whole thing.
Good. Well, that's good. And then I do have a question, one more last question on this necessary section of it. But I want to ask both of you if we can keep it kind of brief. But what was one of the hardest things about explaining to another chef virtually how to make your creation? What was the one thing that you, and I'm going to ask you first, Ricky, what was the hardest thing that you felt, just basically the hardest thing you had to convey to this person to get your vision across? Or was it just very easy? They just grabbed it? Because I guess it was this, I'm sorry, what was her name again? Because you guys have both been
Angela.
Angela.
We love you, Angela.
Yeah, it sounds like she was the best best thing that could happen to both of you guys. But I mean, was there anything what would have been the hardest thing about conveying your message and your recipe to another person?
Well, I think, the recipe I had felt, pretty confident with, and that's how I work. And I think a lot of pastry chefs or bakers work in that same mode, is where you start with a recipe and then you tweak that recipe. So I always have that recipe. I never have to worry about putting it down on paper. But so I knew that I trusted that, but getting her to see why this pizza was special to me, or what that inspiration was, feel that passion, and maybe pick up on just a little bit of that herself to be able to execute it, I think. And that's like the emotional piece of it. I really think that that's probably where I was just trying to convey to her how and why this meant something to me, and to know that there was a person behind it rather than just reading that recipe in a cookbook like you would normally.
All right, Lars, what about you, brother?
I totally agree with that. Is that I think Ricky and I are both driven by passion. Clearly, there's things that we're really passionate about: ingredients, technique, style, and for them to understand our culinary voice is a really hard thing to do on a 45-minute or an hour Zoom call. Angela seemed to be she was so engaged and wanted to know about us, wanted to know why I did things the way, where the flavors come from. She asked a lot of questions and was clearly taking notes. The other chef I worked with, Daniel, was really awesome. He's a local guy and has a restaurant here, and he actually knows our fellow teammate and one of my best friends, Leah Skirdo. They work together a little bit at doing pop-ups or doing classes at this place up in Sonoma County. So that was really cool to immediately, we have a mutual friend, and we're both from the same area, and we both cook with a similar passion, but trying to get across why these things belong together and why I made these two pizzas to begin with. Like Ricky said, the recipes are the recipes. These are seasonal pizzas that I actually do at my restaurant, the both that I won with. But trying to get them to understand why we make it this way. And then the technique, we're really technique driven, particularly with our dough, and we expect it to be handled a certain way, stretched out to a certain amount, and being able to retain the structure and all of that, which is on a Zoom call. And both the chefs were familiar with pizza. And I don't think they've made as many pizzas as I have made, or my chefs have in our lives. Daniel probably has, but it's so technique driven, and it's, what does it smell like? What does it look like? What do the air bubbles look like in front of you? And I couldn't sit there and point those things out and watch them put their hands on it and see how it was supposed to be. So it was a good exercise in letting go of control.
All right, well, here real quick, and I hate to ask this again, Angela, what was her last name one more time? Because I want to throw her up here eventually, but
Salvatore, I think. Angela Salvatore.
Okay.
That is how it is spelled. I hope I'm not butchering it. I'm not great with.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. But
she's wonderful.
Before we're going to go on to the next section here about differences between your two different businesses. But I was going to ask you, what kind of boom does the press from competing give you? But apparently you both know national coverage, local coverage, and stuff like that. But I just really kind of want to. We haven't actually talked about what you won with. So Lars, I've got your picture up here first. So Ricky, we'll save the best for last.
It's true.
So, but Lars, so the elotero, and then am I mispronouncing that? I just get it all in one thing. Elotero.
Yeah, that's elotero. It's a Mexican street corn. It is the word for somebody, a person that serves Mexican street corn.
Mexican street. Oh, right. Okay.
So I guess real quick, Brian, with showing these photos here, and I don't think we actually went over part of the process. And you were saying, "Oh, it's just they're going to judge your recipe." Is that we were actually the judges had apparently asked the Food Connector for us to take really high quality photos of our pizza, specifically a full top view, a full bottom view, a bisection, and whatever the other thing is down there. Oh, a side section, a cut
side
thing.
section. Yeah. Yeah.
So like similar to what you did in the virtual pizza, but they asked us this. So from what I spoke to Tony Gimignani and Glenn Sabulski after the competition when it was all said and done, and they were saying that this is really important because they were judging at the end of the day in the intent that Ricky and I had in making pizzas. So they were tasting and looking at what was in front of them, but at the end of the day, I think some of our speeches and what we intended to make carried a really heavy weight. Because with the understanding that without having any kind of training or real practice time, that what Ricky and I ultimately wanted our pizza to be exactly like wasn't an achievable goal, even though the chefs did really wonderful. And so my understanding was that these carried a lot of weight to the photos you're about to show.
Well, no, I mean, this is the photos that I have from you. So that's the photos I have of the El Otero. But I mean, I like what you're saying is that, you were initially picked on these photos. Now, there has to be a little bit of a, consideration that you're not making this pizza for the judges live. And I get that. And that was my whole concern in trying to do any competition. I did that same way. So, but I mean, it's always nice to go back to, the original source material, which would be these pictures, which is how you got chosen. So, let's just talk about what was on the El Otero real quick, and then we'll go on to your next one. But what did you have on this sucker right here?
So this is a summer seasonal pizza we've done. This is the third year in a row that we've done it, and this one has a queso Oaxaca on it, a pork shoulder braised in a guajillo sauce that I made, corn ricotta, or I use requesón, which is Mexican ricotta for this. We use regular ricotta when we do it in the summertime. I had cotija cheese and micro cilantro, and then I spray the entire top of the pizza out of a spray bottle with lime juice, which is kind of like what you see the street corn guys do, and it's our most popular. It's probably our most popular seasonal pizza throughout the year. And we've done it with bacon in the past. This last year I did it with chorizo, and we tweak things as we go. And this is there's sliced jalapeno. Sorry, I can't believe I forgot that.
I was getting ready to point it out. It's like right there, man. You can see it. But no, I mean, and again, I guess I should say this is the one you won for the CalMax, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, it's definitely a beautiful pie, and then you got some great crumb structure in there that everybody can see. So next, I guess I want to go to. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna try to pull it up here. If you guys just give me 2 seconds. Yeah, there we go. All right, there we go. So this is going to be the Fire on the Mountain, and I mistakenly mistook this because I was watching Lord of the Rings this weekend while my tooth was killing me. But it's not a Lord of the Rings reference. But Fire. No,
we have those. We have some Lord of the Rings reference, but this one's we name a lot of our pizzas, or I name. Oh, I should say we, the proverbial we. I name a lot of pizzas after Grateful Dead tunes. My dad's a Deadhead. I'm a Deadhead, and it kind of has informed a lot of who I am. So we kind of play homage to that. This is a fall seasonal pizza that we do every year. And this one also had queso Oaxaca on it. We use fresh mozzarella often, kind of go back and forth, but it has a roasted cauliflower, Fresno peppers. It has a chorizo that I make in-house with Impossible Foods meat, or parentheses meat, if you will.
Okay.
Then afterward, and I don't want to get sued by the meat lobby. It also has micro cilantro on it, roasted pumpkin seeds or pepitas, and it has an orange crema that we make in. And this is probably one of our, the El Otero is definitely our most popular seasonal pizza, but this is second, third most seasonal pizza that we do. It's a really popular one, and the vegan chorizo is something that I added that we don't do in a house, but kind of. The cauliflower is something that is really popular right now in plant forward or kind of that category. So that's why I did it in the restaurant. And I thought that highlighting Impossible meats would be a cool thing to do for this competition.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask him as soon as you said chorizo. I'm like, wait, no, but it was the Impossible meats, because this is plant forward, and it wasn't supposed to be like necessarily vegan based, but like vegetarian based or vegetarian focused. Or focus on the. I mean, can you describe what the plant forward category was about, just briefly?
No. Sort of. I mean, I think it really. So it's a cheese competition. So it's clearly not meant to be vegan. But plant forward is probably one of the hottest trends in the culinary world right now. I know Ricky's going to agree with that. But there's a fine line because there's like the health food and the sustainable side to it. But at the end of the day, as restaurateurs or bakery owners, we have to create delicious food, and people are not going to come out because it's healthy or just because it's sustainable. Is that it needs to be delicious. So I think this category was what is the best tasting, most creative pizza that you can put out while highlighting plant-based ingredients and California cheeses.
Hey, well, that's a very good description right there. I mean, honestly, because it took me a second when I was looking at it and just reading the rules and all the categories for me to actually figure out what it was, vegan or not, because I had the same thought, is that if there's cheese, it can't be vegan. So it's plant focused. So, all right. Well, now we're on to you, Ricky. So your category was the Real California, right? This is like the one of the main ones, the Real California. And yeah, no, I'll take that right off. Hold on a second.
That's John Eller's pizza from the pizza team.
Wait, what?
The photo you just had up, and I'm sorry, Ricky. That's John.
Oh, that's from last year.
I know, and the U.S. pizza team member John won that last year.
John, you'll be getting a call from me here shortly in royalties. I got about 50 cents in my pocket. So, but anyway, I was just using the logo they gave me. But all right, Ricky. So, what was the name of your pizza that you won with in the Real California category?
So mine was called the Wharf, and it was inspired by, like I said, I grew up in the Bay Area, and a few times a year, my mom and dad would load me and my brothers up into a VW bug, and we would drive over the Bay Bridge to get to San Francisco, and we'd get there and we'd park at Fisherman's Wharf. And before the trip was done, whether it was us going to Ripley's Believe It or Not, or the Wax Museum, or Alcatraz, or whatever, before the trip was done, it would always be clam chowder in a bread bowl. And that's essentially what I did here. And so the bread bowl is a sourdough crust, so it's completely 100% naturally leavened, no commercial yeast in there, with a starter that's fed with rye and bread flour. And so the rye just gives you that nice little bit of tang that you want in that good old San Francisco sourdough. And then the topping is like a white clam sauce, so definitely mimicking like a East Coast white clam pie here. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to highlight that bay breeze and that marine layer of fog. And so worked with Point Reyes and Bellwether Farms, and did a Point Reyes creme fraiche on there, or Bellwether Farms creme fraiche, and the Point Reyes fresh milk mozzarella, as well as some Maurizio Reserva mozzarella as well, just for that little bit more of that age funk to it. Then we got clams and a little bit of fennel and some bacon and potatoes and all the deliciousness that you want from like that big hearty bowl of clam chowder. I was toying with the idea, should we have had little crackers on there too? But I went ahead and nixed that idea. But what you have is basically that clam chowder in a bread bowl and like some chili flake on top to highlight, and a little bit of parsley, but nothing too out there, but just those traditional flavors, but put together in a slightly different way.
Well, no, I mean, I was going to say that's like, you started with that clam, the bread bowl with the clam chowder in the middle, and then you just kind of took it you turned it up to 11, with the potatoes and everything else like that. So, is this something that you've competed with before? Is it something you've actually played with, served to people, or is this just something you came up with for this particular competition?
Yeah, I definitely came up with it for the competition. I mean, it was like looking at those categories last year. I entered in the Real California category as well, and I just didn't quite get there. So this year I was like, no, I really want to do that again. Especially, I mean, we've been living in Spokane, Washington for about 4 years, and it's like, my roots are definitely California. I've learned a couple things and have adapted some flavors from up here, but I mean, I'm a California guy, and so kind of wanting to take some, inspirational story and background. And I mean, when I think of California, it's like, the Fisherman's Wharf, and there's those iconic places that you visit, or Mission San Jose. So I definitely wanted to hit on Fisherman's Wharf because there's a lot of great memories there. And I definitely made it when in practicing for friends and family and anyone I could up here. I mean, basically wherever I could off of my little Weber and a pizza stone to work on, and then going and finding some fellow pizziolos up here who have some pizza restaurants and use their ovens, and kind of made it for them to try, and getting feedback here and there. And with Cisco, I was traveling all over Washington as a consultant, and so definitely would hit a couple of our favorite pizza spots up here, and had them like, hey, can I make this for you? And I want you to try it, and I want to use your ovens, and I want to have it in the perfect setting. And so that was a huge piece of it too. But yeah, hadn't served it to anyone. We're getting ready to do a little pop-up here in the bakery where you can pre-order it and come pick it up, and that'll be the first time that it hits the public. So.
Oh, very nice. And Lars was even mentioning earlier that, I'm going to put it over here, that he's he likes your the background you have, your shop. It looks very beautiful. It seems that Lars, at State of Mind, they've locked him into his office, or I think it's the walk-in. I honestly do. If I could see the breath coming out of his mouth, I'm going to go here real quick to Lars.
Well, you saw me drinking a beer, drinking a beer earlier. I do drink beers in the walk-in, so I can see how you why you would think that.
Well, I'm just seeing the shelves and everything going on there, but hey, that's all right.
We use Metro racks for everything. There are Metro racks everywhere in my place now. We are everything is a Metro rack. Everything is storage in our 3,600 square foot restaurant these days.
That's perfect. Mise en place. Everything in its place. That's how it works. So, okay, guys. Well, I mean, I love the information about the competition, about your inspirations. I do want to say real quick, let me just jump to this real quick. What kind of inspires your, I was going to say what inspires your competition pies, but I think the categories themselves obviously inspire these. But I mean, Ricky, are you offering pizzas in this bakery, or are you not?
We're not doing that yet. But like I said, I think I want to definitely give it a chance to have some, local Spokaneites come in and get that pizza, to taste it, to see what it's all about and why maybe it's a little bit special. But we have a lot of great, pizzerias and pizza restaurants here in Spokane, and I open this to compete with that. I open this to be a bakery and cheese shop, which is the kind of a combination that I think goes hand in hand. When you're looking at representing both of those ingredients or both of those themes, I think you automatically come to pizza, right? Pizza and bread, and cheese and bread, and you end up with pizza. So that was kind of the mission behind this, of opening this up. And then when entering the California Pizza competition again this year, it was, of course, this has been a dream and a goal to open this shop, but it was not necessarily forefront or in the works at that point, which is interesting to say because it happened quick once we decided to move. Yeah. But it was definitely not. It was just me, again, holding myself accountable, keeping me on my toes, wanting me to, I want to play. I want to be part of this. I want to push myself. I had been in that consultant role with Cisco for the last few years and not in the industry, not on the ground floor and with the team and getting my hands dirty. And it was hard to not be part of that. But with them, I obviously was able to compete in a ton of stuff and continue to keep my finger on the pulse of our industry. And that was really the motivation behind me entering yet again this year, was to just continue to keep pushing myself forward, because I knew I wasn't going to be in the consulting role forever. I was a little sad and missing the industry and missing, just working in it every single day, which were gluttons for punishment. But, it was 3 years of a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and I hated it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're standing still, you're not doing anything, and that's the best attitude I can take from many of my pizza guys. Lars, yourself, you're obviously, and I do want to ask you guys both about opening stuff in a pandemic here real quick. We can touch on briefly, but what you compete in so many competitions. How do you keep coming up with different recipes? And the thing is I think, and I probably know that you're not coming up with these recipes for competitions. This is just what you do. What inspires all the craziness? I don't want to say craziness.
You can say crazy.
Okay, it's crazy, but it's crazy good. Is that a better way to put it?
Sure.
I mean, what keeps inspiring your recipes? Because I mean, you know, I know it's a lot of local and stuff, but how far can that go?
I mean, at this point, when people have heard me talk, I mean, it sounds like cliche, or I'm just using a branding line that really I am inspired by the food and the ingredients of California, and the bounty here is absolutely incredible between cheese companies, meat producers, you know, farmers, and all of that. And there is, so I mean, I haven't found the ceiling yet. Is that I go to anywhere from Whole Foods to farmers markets to the fancy food show, Pizza Expo, and I just find these little things, and I keep notebooks. I'm sure Ricky's been in the industry long enough, and we keep notebooks and little notes and things in our phones, and I get these little tickles of an idea, and then eventually, hey, that thing that's been kind of tickling my brain forever that I want to do an apricot pizza, and well, it's time to do an apricot pizza. It's April, you know, they're fresh, and just trying to stay relevant and stay motivated to be the best chef that I can be every day. And I love playing in the kitchen. I mean, that's what I live to do. And I want to find a balance as a business owner that I always can do that. And competitions are a way to give me a reason to continue to play with food and be creative, because it's real easy as a business owner to just sit here behind a computer regularly or work on menus or finances, and forcing myself to change our menu 4 times a year, do specials, and do these competitions is, you know, it makes me be creative. And then Michael Wolf, who's on the team here in Rockland, kind of gave me a little advice early on, or not early on, but probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. You know, don't do the same pizza twice. Don't compete with the same pizza twice. Stay creative, stay relevant. And so I've kind of taken that to heart, and I have repeated once or twice or modified things, or kind of progressed or refined ideas, but thinking about what's next. And if you look at the world of produce, and Ricky can speak probably to cheese better than I can, it's going to take a long time to max out creativity on some of this stuff. Like, there is more cheese and more seasonal produce and more local charcuterie and meat available than there ever has been before. So it is really a wonderful time to be a chef interested in creativity and uniqueness.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's good. I mean, and you got to have that reach across, you know, all your friends. And it's not, I mean, you know, years past, generations past in the pizzeria industry, it's been very secretive. It's like my sauce, my dough, my recipes. Everybody now is very forthcoming. You know, from the Gemignani's to the John Arenas to the Lamarcas. Don't tell them I quoted, you know, mentioned his name and stuff like that. You know, everybody on the team. But I mean, we're all there to help, you know, uplift each other. So, all right. But let me jump on to what I would think, and I'm going to ask you, Ricky, first. What do you think is the difference of a pizzeria from a bakery? And then Lars, I'm going to ask you the opposite. What do you think is the difference of a pizzeria from a bakery, or how that works? I want to see what the other thinks of the other's operation. Is basically what it is. Ricky, go.
Yeah, and we've spoken to this a few times already. And like Lars said, if you're not serving good food, you're not going to have a customer base come back. And so the difference is, you know, as an owner operator is not too different in my mind from whether you're you know, any restaurateur, any chef. You have that same goal. You want to serve great food to an audience that is bought into what you do and enjoys it and is there for the experience. And
okay, well, no, Ricky. I mean, no, I like that. But what I'm saying is, like, operationally wise, what do you think that you have to do different from a pizzeria that they don't have to do, and then vice versa? I mean, we obviously understand that, you know, on the forefront, you know, putting your business out there and making sure that the customer is happy. We'll just call that understood.
I mean,
what do you think is the difference in, like, operations and stuff? Like, what do you have to deal with that maybe Lars doesn't have to deal with? And if he calls and gripes at you about something, you say, "Really? Do you want to hear my story?"
I mean, we're, you know, we're doing a lot more like large format breads here, and fermenting dough and naturally fermented, and playing with yeast and balancing it out. But again, like that's all transferable. I think you're not. I'm sure in a pizzeria you're not laminating doughs or worrying about maybe butterfat content as much in this dough versus this cookie or whatever, but you're probably not getting in as much sugar as we are. But again, like I don't see the divide as huge as maybe you're wanting it to sound. And we're.
I need it for drama, Ricky.
Okay. So that whole competitive.
But that's what I'm saying. What you're saying, you do a whole lot more different types of dough than like what a pizzeria might. I mean, is that going to be more of a hindrance on a pizzeria?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, it depends if you're doing a naturally leavened pizza crust or not. And we're doing that with like 4 or 5 of our breads that we're offering daily. There are a couple, obviously, like focaccia and some pan loaf breads that we're doing with commercial yeast, and, just knowing that balance and figuring that out. And then, probably not working on as many savory items and components in produce as you guys are on a pizza line versus the bakery line. We're offering cookies and breads and pastries and croissants and, all of those awesome and yummy things, as well as crackers and stuff for our charcuterie and cheese section. But it's not, we're not processing as much produce. We're not, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss.
It's fine. I'm just trying to just get you guys yelling at each other. But honestly, too,
not going to happen.
Multi-concept with the cheese concept as well. You're doing more stuff with the meats and things like that. Lars, I mean, what do you think that is? If somebody's doing a bakery, I mean, they're doing numerous different types of dough types and different types of bakery goods versus a pizzeria. But then again, like Ricky said, you guys have to manage a bunch of different ingredients, such as vegetables and meats and stuff like that. What do you think?
Well, I don't have to get up at 4 a.m. to start baking, so that's pretty cool. I don't keep bakers. I've been waiting. I've been holding that one. I've thought about that for like a couple of days now, that I was going to lead with that. That I'm a nutcase. I don't sleep. So I'm not saying I sleep more. I just don't have to be baking bread at 4 a.m. And I agree with what Ricky said, is that, you run a business, you're selling food to people. It's got to be good. You got to hit your market. Having not worked in a bakery per se, though my grandma owned a cookie company that I work with, and I have friends that are bakers, is that their work is so much on the front end in terms of production and doing huge quantities of things to be ready to sell for the day. And on the bakery side, on the pizzeria side, is we're getting ready to make food all day. They're completely different, and I'm sure there is huge stressors in either. But like my stressors are, is everything going to be ready to make the 300 pizzas we have to between 4 and 8 on a Friday night, opposed to, are all the loaves ready at 10 a.m. that we have to sell for the rest of the day? Totally stressful. I eat pastries and artisan bread. On my days off, I go look for bakeries and all that. I would never want to own one. It is way too stressful and too many things could go wrong. So hats off to Ricky and all the other bakers that I frequent for pizza. There's a lot more moving parts in terms of managing stock and what you have to, with that sort of stuff throughout the day. But baking is hard work, and getting those recipes right and handling the different doughs differently and running a production facility, even if it's for one location, not even a wholesale bakery. There is so much that goes into it, the hours that they have to spend early in the day doing that to get open by whatever time. The goal is the same, but bakery people might be crazier than pizza people. Sorry, Ricky.
No, I agree with you. I think
that was a compliment. That was
absolutely. I mean, we're all crazy to be in this industry to begin with. So I think, to be even more crazy is, yes. Yeah. Part of my divide, and whether it's hard for me to kind of look at that, is like, I've been in the industry for 25 years, and it's been anything from small bakery or pastry shops to large hotels to restaurants it's kind of everything in between. And you just make it happen, and you kind of, those lines and those differences get blurred, and that's, you insert yourself in whatever project it is, and you're just going to make it happen. And I know, like, if Lars was to come here tomorrow and I'm like, Lars, I need really a lot of help right now. I need you to show up, and you're going to show up with me in the morning. He's just going to make it happen. I mean, that's what we do. And it's that like that camaraderie in this industry. And so I think it all gets blurred for me a little bit in the last 25 years, which is a long time. So with that being said, Lars, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. actually, not 4.
I'm bringing my 7-year-old. Your place will be a wreck. But what Ricky said is true. And again, I think if we're going to transition probably into building during the pandemic before you kick us all off here, Ryan.
That's actually what I was getting ready to just ask.
I have a segue for you. We can erase the $500 debt that I have for you with this segue. And is that that what Ricky's saying is that we are the kind of people that just get things done. We make do. And it made me kind of chuckle when he said that, is that I'm dealing with a contractor right now who's wonderful. I shouldn't say dealing with a contractor. We're working with a contractor who understands restaurants, but he keeps on going to these little details. Would you rather have it like this or like this? I don't know what the service flow is going to be. He's like, I'm concerned you don't have enough space for this here. And I said, we're restaurant people, we make do. You build it, I'll make it work, which might not be the best attitude to some of this project, but that is, I've been in it for 18 years. Ricky said 25 years that he's been in it. We are people that get things done. We make do with what's in front of us, and we make it happen. Every single day we make it happen. So there are some differences, but the attitude to us that have been in the business for a while is that you get up, you prepare the best you can, and you make it happen.
Well, that's kind of one of the U.S. Pizza Team mottos is, it is what it is, because we always wake up every morning. You've been on our Pizza Team trips. It is what it is. We get there, it happens, and we're done. But, I did want to kind of ask you guys real quick, just, we got a couple minutes left, but, just about trying to open up establishments in the pandemic. Now, I know, Ricky, you were saying this was something that was kind of ongoing and just you had to kind of pull the trigger and sign the lease there. And Lars, I'm not sure exactly when. Was this something you were working on before the pandemic, and then you just again said, let's pull the trigger, do it now? And then why did you say, Lars, why did you say pull the trigger now versus waiting?
If only it were that simple. We signed the lease 2 weeks before the shelter in place happened here in California. But it was something that we've been planning for a long time. And, there was nothing that happened in the last 8 months that made us completely second guess that. We worked really, really, really hard to stay afloat and be successful during the pandemic, which many people haven't had the opportunity to do. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm going to give a shout out again to Michael LaMarca, and he has given me the best business and financial advice for being a pizza operator that I've ever had in my life. And he had told us to save money in our first couple of years in business. And we were fortunate enough to do that. So we already had money saved for this project. The pandemic certainly slowed it down, but we thought it was still the right thing to do, and are building a restaurant and opening a restaurant in the pandemic that we had planned to do before. Okay.
Well, again, it's one of those things that you've was already in the works, but you got to be able to stay behind it and just make sure that it goes forward. So Ricky, what about you? Again, it sounds like you were kind of working towards something, and then.
Yeah, I mean, it had almost happened a few different times in the last few years. This concept of opening a bakery combined with a cheese shop, and because they go hand in hand, and but every time fell through, and it didn't feel right. And this time, I was furloughed. I was like, I'm not going to sit on my butt and be depressed and frustrated and fall into this negativity and upsetness. And I know I'm going to put myself to work, and I'm going to go to work 3 days a week. I'm going to clock in and put, a business plan together and put all this on paper and see where it really makes sense. And did I think it would happen immediately or within this year? Not at all. But I thought if I get brought back to work, at least I'll have something to show for the time off that I had. And when I immediately started putting it down and on paper, the universe kind of answered, as silly as that sounds. And when it became that quick possibility that, hey, this could happen now, I thought, I'm always going to be scared shitless. There's my one. To open something. How much more fear can the human body take just because it's a pandemic? And I thought, I'm not going to be any more scared than I already would be. So let's do it, and let's do it now, because the bakery trend, our model. We have no seating, nothing like that. I mean, it's all very much representational of the type of dining and eating and experience right now that we can have. So I said, you know what, let's do it and let's make the best of it. And we've been open for 6 weeks and we've been, doing better than I expected. And sure, we just got pulled back here in Washington, another kind of phase, but we're still able to serve people and have people come in and get food, and great response. So I'm grateful that I did it.
Well, and we're going to have to deal with this up and down for a little bit, as far as how many people are allowed in and stuff. So just make sure that you guys keep your fingers on that pulse. Stay strong. Ricky, I want to give you one last chance to give not one last chance, but give one last final positive affirmation to the pizza world, bakery world.
No, I mean, I think that you enter competitions, have fun, push yourself. And I always say, if I'm bored or just stagnant, I'm dying. And so we always gotta move forward. And this industry is ruthless, and it's going to be here for someone else if you're not, pushing yourself forward to be that next person in it. And it's a lot of fun, and have fun and enter the competitions and do whatever. And I mean, whether you're a baker, a pizza chef, a line cook, a prep cook, a dishwasher, whatever, like, push yourself if this is the industry you want to be in and this is where you feel most at home, which is why Lars and I are sitting here today. Have fun and push yourself as far as you think it can go, and then even further.
All right, Lars, you final positive affirmation.
All right, if you are, you're listening to this and you are part of the island of misfit toys, for my Christmas reference with Ricky and Brian and I, because that's truly how I see the restaurant industry. Try to be the best you can be every day. Join these competitions, push yourself further, see what you can make with your skills or how you can further your skills, and do it for the community, do it for the brother and sisterhood. It's a really wonderful experience, and it can really help you grow as a professional and as an individual.
Short and to the point. I love it. That's just kind of gets you right at the heart. I mean, that's kind of the crux of it. Ricky, Lars, I definitely thank you so much for you guys being a part of this this conversation today. I'm Brian Hernandez. This has been the live update for December 1st. We are 1 minute over 1 hour, but I could go a lot longer with these guys, and I hope to actually talk with them in the future. Except for Lars, he's been on here several times. He's going to have to start paying for this.
I want to see more Ricky, more Ricky, and I can't wait to visit. Congratulations on the win and the shop, Ricky.
Thanks, Lars. You too. Congratulations. And
I tell you what, when you go over there, Lars, let me know and we'll put it up live. We'll do one of those lives.
Oh, another surprise one? Okay, I'm in.
Absolutely. So, all right, thank everybody who tuned in. We wish you all well from PMQ Pizza Magazine. I'm your host, Brian Hernandez. Everybody stay well, stay safe, stay sane, and be kind to others, and everything else that these great gentlemen have told you. So at that point, I'm just gonna let everybody go.